So I sent 10 songs through, and they was all finna be on my album because I didn't want nobody to steal my shit because I know how people move. So boom, the one they took a liking to was the intro. Now the intro still dropped. I said, no, you can't have this song. He wanted me on his album still. He said, I'm gonna send you a verse through. Never sent a verse. I didn't give a fuck till I just went and listened to Iceman, and I listened to Little Birdie, and then I went back and listened to the intro of my first album. Twin. That's the only beat I've ever produced and sat there and produced. Don't rip my shit and repitch it like that, fam.
Drake allegedly took 1900Rugrat's song, grabbed a beat the artist made himself. The one-track Rugrats team reportedly made clear was off limits, then dropped it onto a huge album release like nobody would catch it. Now 1900Rugrat has stepped forward publicly, and people are waiting to see how Drake answers this situation. People need to understand this before anything else gets twisted. This is not some normal rap industry disagreement over paperwork, producer tags, or royalty percentages. This story is way bigger than that. A 21-year-old artist from Limestone Creek, Florida, a tiny town with barely over 1,000 residents, finally gets his moment, finally starts building real attention, finally receives support from one of the biggest names in music, then suddenly sees that same superstar accused of pulling from his work anyway. According to Rugrat's claims, the beat was reworked, repitched, and placed onto Iceman even after he allegedly said no. That's why this situation has people talking everywhere online. And what makes it even louder is that critics have accused Drake of similar moves before. Over the years, fans and artists have pointed at moments where smaller creators felt their style, sound, cadence, or lyrics were borrowed without proper credit. XXXTentacion spoke on it publicly. Meek Mill pushed accusations too. The Weeknd even admitted Drake was heavily inspired by his early sound, and leaked reference tracks connected to Future caused huge debates online. Lil Yachty's name also got dragged into conversations around writing and influence. Now here's the wild part. Drake dropped this album while trying to rebuild momentum after the massive Kendrick Lamar battle shook up his image. So for one of the first major reactions to be a rising Florida rapper jumping on Instagram saying, "That's my shit," the timing instantly turned this into a huge internet storm. Before getting deeper into what Drake is being accused of, people need to understand who 1900Rugrat really is. If you ignore his background, you miss why so many fans connect with this story. Miles Spiel, born August 8, 2003, comes from Limestone Creek, Florida, a small area tucked inside Palm Beach County, and his rise did not come from industry privilege or major connections. Population? Barely over 1,000 people. The place is so small that its biggest landmark is basically a nature preserve. That's the kind of environment 1900Rugrat came from. No Hollywood setup, no rich music connections, nothing like that. He never even knew his biological parents. He was adopted at only 2 weeks old. Then things reportedly fell apart years later when his adoptive parents kicked him out at just 14 years old. A teenager trying to survive on the streets of South Florida is already a rough situation for anybody. After that, he ended up staying with his friend Rick from Dog Creek's family, the same Rick fans have heard mentioned in his music. That's where things slowly started changing. Rugrat got into rapping almost by accident because he believed he sounded better than another kid freestyling in class. Real simple, real natural. He wasn't chasing celebrity status back then. He was known as the funny dude, the reckless kid, the one people laughed at or doubted before they ever took him seriously. For years, he stayed underground grinding with almost no attention. He worked regular jobs at Walmart and Tijuana Flats, but keeping steady work never seemed to last long. Most jobs barely made it past a few months. Meanwhile, he was recording tracks in his friend's room using a Turtle Beach gaming headset hooked up to a computer. That raw Florida energy came from listening to artists like Chief Keef, Kodak Black, YNW Melly, and XXXTentacion, mixed with drill influences that shaped the sound people now recognize. He kept uploading freestyles to SoundCloud for years with barely any streams or recognition. Then everything flipped in September 2024 when he dropped One Take Freestyle. The track exploded fast. Within weeks, it climbed all the way to the #1 spot on Spotify's US viral chart. Suddenly, labels started blowing up his phone, industry executives wanted meetings, and the same artist people ignored was now getting major attention. He eventually signed with Remain Solid and 300 Entertainment, making a huge jump from hanging around porches in Limestone Creek to moving through high-rise industry offices. It was a real rags to riches story, and 1900Rugrat leaned fully into that image. He even named his debut project Porch to the Pen, which dropped on February 28, 2025. Once that tape landed, the support started pouring in fast. Kodak Black showed love. Lil Yachty posted him. Lil Uzi Vert tapped in too. Bossman Dlo even brought him on tour, putting Rugrat in front of bigger crowds and bigger stages than he had ever seen before. Then came performances at Rolling Loud Miami and Rolling Loud California, two massive festivals that pushed his name even further. The media started paying attention too. The New York Times praised his sound and called his style fully developed, while the Fader labeled him one of the artists people needed to watch closely. But the moment that really changed everything was when Drake himself reposted him. That single move sent Rugrat's buzz into another level almost overnight. Right after Kendrick Lamar dominated the Grammys with Not Like Us in February 2025, Drake was overseas touring in Australia. During one of the shows, Drake posted an Instagram reel showing himself on stage wearing a hoodie designed with fake bullet holes while smoke effects blasted around him. Playing in the background was a heavy bass-boosted remix of 1900Rugrat's One Take Freestyle. Fans immediately connected the dots. Rugrat later said the moment hit him so hard he woke his girlfriend up just to tell her, "Babe, Drake posted me." He told Complex the cosign completely shocked him, and he admitted to the Fader that he was losing his mind over it. For somebody who came from a tiny Florida town with barely over 1,000 people, getting recognition from one of the biggest artists on earth felt life-changing. That's why this whole situation carries so much emotion now. Imagine hearing support from your idol, only to later feel like that same artist may have taken something from your vault without permission. That's where the story takes a wild turn. According to Rugrat, contact with Drake's camp actually started long before the public cosigns, the viral moments, or the Grammy season attention. And the conversations reportedly were not just casual praise about his music. In an Instagram video, Rugrat claimed that around a year and a half before Iceman released, one of Drake's producers reached out asking to hear unreleased material. Think about how serious that is. This reportedly was not some random fan sending messages or an unknown music scout throwing out compliments. From Rugrat's perspective, this was direct interest coming from people connected to one of the biggest artists in the world. A producer connected to Drake reportedly reached out directly to a Florida rapper who was still basically unknown at the time and asked to hear music. That alone was already a huge moment for 1900Rugrat. According to his Instagram video, he ended up sending over 10 unreleased songs, tracks he had been saving for his own project. But here's the important part people keep focusing on. Rugrat claimed he was already cautious because he understood how the music business could get shady. He made it clear he was not moving blindly. In his own words, "I didn't want nobody to steal my shit, and I know how people move." That statement hits harder now because of what allegedly happened next. Rugrat said Drake's team listened through all 10 records and became especially interested in one specific track, the intro record. That intro was important to him for a reason. According to Rugrat, it was the one beat he personally created from scratch himself. Out of every song he sent, he claimed that was the one Drake's side wanted most. Rugrat explained it directly, saying, "The one they took a liking to was the intro." But he also said he immediately shut the idea down. "I said, no, you can't have this song." Instead of giving it away, he kept the record for himself and used it to open his debut project Porch to the Pen, which released February 28, 2025. That intro carried extra meaning because it was tied to his own creative work and represented the beginning of his breakthrough moment as an artist. Then fast forward to May 15, 2026, and everything suddenly exploded online again. Drake launched an enormous release night by dropping not one, not two, but 3 albums at the same time: Iceman, Habibti, and Maid of Honor. Altogether, the release included 43 tracks and arrived during the 4th installment of his Iceman livestream series. The rollout instantly became one of the biggest music moments on the internet. Drake appeared on camera pulling out 3 hard drives while fans lost their minds across social media. People treated it like a massive comeback statement, especially because this was being framed as his first major solo studio release since For All the Dogs back in 2023. A lot of listeners also viewed it as Drake's attempt to regain momentum after the brutal Kendrick Lamar battle and the huge impact of Not Like Us. The second Drake's albums dropped, everybody rushed to stream them, and 1900Rugrat was right there listening too. Then he reached track 15 on Iceman, a song called Little Birdie. And according to Rugrat, something instantly sounded familiar. He stopped, went back, replayed the song, then compared it to the intro from Porch to the Pen over and over again. That's when he jumped online and posted the video that set social media on fire. In the clip, he said, "Twin, that's the only beat I ever produced and sat there and made myself. Don't rip my shit and repitch it like that." Those words hit hard because Rugrat was not talking about some random instrumental bought from another producer or downloaded from the internet. He was talking about the one beat he personally built from scratch himself. According to Rugrat's accusation, the beat was allegedly altered, repitched, and placed onto Iceman like it was brand new material. What made the situation even more intense was the fact that Lil Birdie was reportedly credited only to Drake as writer and composer. No mention of Rugrat, no visible co-production credit, nothing tied back to the Florida artist who claimed the original creation belonged to him. As soon as the video surfaced, the internet exploded almost immediately. Music forums started flooding with discussions. Reddit threads popped up within hours. Review pages for Iceman filled with people repeating the same claim again and again, that Lil Birdie sounded connected to 1900Rugrat's work and may have been used without approval. Fan pages quickly began posting side-by-side clips comparing both tracks. YouTube creators rushed to upload breakdown videos analyzing the similarities. TikTok feeds became packed with reactions, comparisons, and debates about the production. The whole thing spread fast because listeners were already paying close attention to Drake's every move after the Kendrick Lamar battle and the pressure surrounding this album rollout. And this situation felt different from the usual online accusations because Rugrat was not some random person appearing out of nowhere trying to chase attention off a major release. He claimed there had already been direct communication between him and people connected to Drake's production side. On top of that, his own song had been publicly released months before Iceman dropped, meaning fans could easily line the tracks up side by side and judge the similarities for themselves. The timeline is what really has people locked into this story. According to 1900Rugrat's claims, he created the beat himself. Then Drake's camp allegedly reached out asking for the music. Rugrat said they wanted that specific track, but he told them no. After that, Rugrat officially released the song on February 28, 2025 as part of Porch to the Pent. More than a year later, on May 15, 2026, fans heard what Rugrat believes is a repitched version appear on Drake's Iceman album. That's the sequence people online keep laying out step by step. But the conversation got even bigger because critics immediately started bringing up older situations tied to Drake and accusations about borrowing styles, sounds, or creative ideas from smaller artists. That's where this stopped feeling like just a disagreement between two rappers and turned into a debate about a pattern the culture has argued over for years. 1900Rugrat is a Florida artist who grew up watching the South Florida rap scene explode during the rise of XXXTentacion. He told Billboard he was still a freshman in high school when YNW Melly's Murder on My Mind was only circulating around SoundCloud. So he came up during an era where Florida artists were creating sounds that eventually spread across the entire music industry. And one of the biggest examples people still debate today involves Drake and XXXTentacion. Back in January 2017, Drake was overseas on his Boy Meets World tour in Amsterdam. During one performance, he previewed a track from his upcoming More Life project called KMT, featuring UK rapper Giggs. A fan recording from the concert leaked online, and almost immediately people began comparing Drake's flow on the song to XXXTentacion's breakout hit, Look at Me! At that moment, Look at Me was becoming one of the biggest underground records on the internet. XXXTentacion was locked up in Broward County at the time, right in the same South Florida area connected to Rugrat's scene. Fans quickly noticed similarities between the vocal cadence on KMT and the aggressive delivery style X had popularized on his own records. The comparisons spread everywhere online within hours. X's fan base started calling Drake out directly, arguing the flow sounded way too close to ignore. Members of XXXTentacion's team also publicly addressed the situation. Adam22, who was close to X at the time, admitted there were two possibilities. Maybe Drake had heard the song, maybe he had not. But either way, people could clearly hear the resemblance being discussed online. Another associate connected to X, Danny Towers, spoke openly about the controversy too. He reportedly said, "And keep it real, I felt it was kind of ridiculous to say that you've never heard of him." That comment fueled the conversation even more because many fans believe Drake, one of the biggest artists in the world, would naturally be aware of viral music trends coming out of Florida's exploding SoundCloud scene. The leaked reference tracks only pushed the conversation even further. People started noticing near-identical deliveries, almost the exact same cadences, and similar vocal patterns across multiple records. Songs like 10 Bands, Know Yourself, and several other major Drake tracks reportedly featured Quentin Miller performing versions of the verses in ways that sounded extremely close to Drake's final releases. Drake's team defended the situation by describing Miller as a collaborator rather than a ghostwriter. But for a lot of listeners, that line felt very thin once those recordings started spreading online. Fans were not just hearing written ideas or rough concepts. They were hearing full performances, melodies, flows, and vocal structures that sounded nearly finished already. That's where the bigger debate really started. NPR even pointed out at the time that rap is not only about the lyrics written on paper. A huge part of hip-hop comes from delivery, cadence, rhythm, emotion, and how somebody brings bars to life. So when another artist is already laying out those flows and vocal patterns in a reference track, people naturally begin asking difficult questions about authorship and originality. And the conversation around Drake didn't stop there either. Back in 2015, The Weeknd openly admitted during an interview with Rolling Stone that he gave songs to Drake for Take Care that were originally meant for his own House of Balloons era. He even said directly, "I gave up almost half my album." At the time, The Weeknd framed it as gratitude because Drake's cosign helped introduce him to a much larger audience. But years later, after tensions reportedly grew between the two artists, another comment from The Weeknd made fans revisit the situation in a completely different light. He said, "I thank God that I never signed my life away." That quote instantly fueled more discussions online about power dynamics in the music industry and how younger artists sometimes feel pressured to hand over creative work in exchange for opportunity or exposure. That's why the 1900Rugrat situation has people paying such close attention right now. To critics, it feels connected to a much bigger history of accusations, debates, and unanswered questions surrounding Drake's relationships with rising artists and collaborators over the years. Whether these situations are misunderstandings, industry business, or something deeper is exactly why the internet keeps circling back to them again and again. And now the big question is this: will Drake finally respond directly, or will this become another controversy that fades into hip-hop history without real answers? If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with somebody following the Drake situation, and drop your thoughts in the comments below.